So, welcome to the show, Donna.
Thank you so much, Sarah. It's awesome to be here.
I am super excited to have you here because, it's not often you see a senior VP at a public company and inventor next to each other on a LinkedIn profile. So, I absolutely cannot wait to find out all about you because I'm just so intrigued. And so, let's just dive right in. I love starting these interviews by taking it back to the beginning. I think it was Maya Angelou that said, "You can't really know where you are going until you know where you have been." And that kind of really sums it up, right? So, give us insight into your journey. Did you always want to be in tech?
Always wanting to be in tech. Well, when I was a little girl, I think tech was a very different thing than it is
Yes.
today, for sure. I think I was always inquisitive, and I was always just wanting to pursue um, process improvements and changing things and making it better and better and better. When I was about 13 or so, I actually worked at a tea factory on a line bagging tea. I'm
Wow.
sure it broke a whole bunch of labor laws and everything. Um, but that's what I did in my summers. And I was constantly, again, obsessed with working these machines, but making it faster every single time, making it more efficient, making it wherever I was moving boxes to, making sure they were in the exact right position. So I was always looking at changing a process for continuous improvement.
Awesome. I love that. And that's kind of, being in supply chain, right? It's always all about continuous improvement and problem solving. And so I know we just talked about tech, but also in supply chain. That's why I think supply chain and tech kind of go hand in hand. And so you worked at Accenture and at IBM, I think in the 90s, and you were working for IT mega brands at a time of like huge developments in the industry. So, what was it like at that time, and how have things changed?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was able to join the field at a really interesting time of change. When I left college, I was given a choice. Would I like to work on this mainframe, these OS 390 mainframes,
Okay.
or do I want to work on PeopleSoft? And for me, I'm like, obviously, the new thing. I want to work on the new thing. I want to try to figure it out and try to understand where it goes. So I was able to take a journey with Accenture, which was Anderson Consulting at the time, with an PeopleSoft Solution Center, where Accenture would be owning the technology and maintaining it for these customers. A very different type of world, a new world. But I love this whole notion that we would be creating a new frontier and trying to figure it out.
Absolutely. And so, from the time that you were there until now, how have things changed? Like, I'm sure that they've changed a lot.
Oh, dramatically, absolutely. Even so, I've been at Coupa about 10 years now. When I joined Coupa, the company had started in a model of multi-tenant SaaS, fully 100% cloud. And even 10 years ago, when I joined, that was a very difficult conversation with IT organizations just 10 years ago. That, you would sit down with the CIO, and the CIO would say, I'm not sure about this cloud thing yet.
Right.
And I mean, that's only 10 years. It's only been 10 years. So it's very interesting to now take a look back and say, well, you can't even imagine that conversation, right? But
Hmm.
again, just 10 years ago, people were saying, um, should we go cloud? Should this be a multi-tenant solution? And now it's kind of a de facto. A
Well, I think
lot of
even 10
change.
I think even 10 years ago, companies were like, "Do we really need a website? Because I don't know if we really need a website."
That's fair. That's fair. You can just look back and look at all the changes. And I remember just looking at Coupa, and we would say no to customers. We would just say no all the time because they didn't understand our model, but we
Right.
knew our model and we knew where we wanted to go and lead our industry.
Yeah, so interesting. And now, look at us now with VR and AR and shopping that way and then robotics in the warehouse and we're just talking all sorts of different technology right now that's coming into supply
Mhm.
chain and everybody is just trying to get their feet wet with all of it. And so you mentioned that you're at Coupa and we had Matt on the show a little while ago and it was pretty incredible to learn about some of the things that Coupa is doing on the supply chain side. So, talk to us about being the Senior Vice President of Product Strategy and Innovation. I mean, that must be such an exciting role.
It's fun. I'll tell you, every single day is different and unique. And the opportunity to work with our customers around the world, with my colleagues at Coupa, with our partners, and really ideate and say to ourselves, what's the problem we're trying to
Yes.
solve for, and really set aside how things have worked in the past
Hmm.
in lieu of how would it work if we were able to do anything, if we were able to go to a whiteboard and just magically wave a wand and have it all done, what would it look like? And
Hmm.
that, I think, is the most thrilling part of my role, is having these types of conversations with our customers around the globe and saying to ourselves, we're not limited by anything
Right.
other than our creativity and our imagination. And if we were able to say to ourselves, how should it work, and live in that world, we're going to keep creating some amazing things. And in the supply chain space in particular, being able to do things like optimize for a network for issues like carbon footprint reduction, and
Hmm.
then going from an optimization from a theoretical exercise of what it could be into an execution of
Ooh.
how will it get done. It has just been fascinating all along, and trying to pull together the supply chain and sourcing teams and the procurement teams, and bringing them all together on the same journey supported by technology has been fascinating.
Yeah, and just I mean, I just get goosebumps thinking about how you're talking in theory and then seeing something actually happening in real time in real life. I mean, that's got to be amazing. And you touched on sustainability a little bit, but I also know that Coupa is very much about diversity and inclusion. I know that they have supported women in procurement and women in supply chain for a number of years. What does a diverse perspective bring to those kind of conversations and what you're doing in product?
So I think a diversity of voice and
Yeah.
thought is really important. We have this saying at Coupa, it's a core philosophy: none of us is as smart as all of us. And
Ah, I like
yeah,
that.
I absolutely,
Say
I
more.
love it. And I live by it all the time. And it's so true. It's the fact that if we could put all of our brains together, we'll create something very different. And the more diverse voices we can put together, the more improved that product will be. And our product organization is certainly very diverse, and we always look for bringing in different voices into the conversation, uh, whether that's a male voice, a female voice, a different region, a different age. Diversity has a whole number of um, facets that we try to bring in.
Absolutely. I love that saying. I'm going to be that's like in my brain now. And so you mentioned that you've been at
Mm.
Coupa for over 10 years. And I know I said it in your bio that you've been part of helping them to scale and go public. Is that like a constant challenge and growth that you love? Because, I mean, product is one thing, but helping to also scale and go public is a complete other.
Yeah, it is. It's this notion: get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Is, because it's constantly changing. Everything is going to change. And if you're not comfortable with that, this may not be the environment for you. But for myself, it's something I enjoy, I thrive in. I thrive looking at problems and saying, okay, here's the problem of the day, but what will that problem be like 2 years from now or 4 years from now? And how do we get ready and how do we prepare for it? So we've just celebrated our 5 year anniversary of our IPO. I
Nice.
joined the company when we had about 30 employees, where deal sizes were a couple $1,000s, and now it's just radically different. And every year is a very different company at the end of that year, and it's been fascinating. I sometimes speak to customers that have been with us on the journey, and we'll sit down and say, "It was very different 10 years ago,
Yeah,
but it was very different 2 years ago." Just
right.
sitting 2 years ago from where we are today, you can see the major changes, and this week we've been doing and last week we've been doing our product walkthroughs.
Ah,
And
cool.
it's so evident in these product walkthroughs to see just how high the bar has risen in terms
Mhm.
of the quality of all the team and the output of everyone. It's cool
Awesome.
to take a look.
Well, we have a lot of people in the audience that are from the tech community, whether it's, female or male. What advice would you give to somebody that's working for, a tech company that is scaling quite quickly and, or maybe being ready to go public? What advice would you give to somebody that's kind of going through that right now?
Sure. Again, I think one broad message is just be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Recognize that a lot of the people around you are probably feeling the exact same
Huh,
way.
okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Especially if you're going into an IPO process. When we were going through that process, only a handful of us had a previous IPO. So the majority of the people that you're surrounded by are also going through these processes for the first time and
Hmm.
learning through them. So just saying to yourself, you're not expected to know everything. What you're expected to do is really try to absorb as much as possible and try to look at everything as a learning opportunity. And if you're going to fail on something, fail fast, learn from it, and move on, right?
Oh my goodness, that's such great advice. I mean, that's for anybody, but also for entrepreneurship. If you are going into
Yeah,
entrepreneurship, that's good advice for that too. Um,
definitely.
so, in the summer, you became a board member at Optimizely. Do you want to tell us about that organization and what they do? Because when I looked into them, I was really kind of excited about what I was seeing.
Oh, yeah, Optimizely is fantastic. So, Optimizely is a recognition that the customer experience is now a digital experience. Right?
Yep.
Everyone's experience is digital now.
Hmm.
And so, what Optimizely has done is they sit squarely at the notion of bringing content together with being able to make smart decisions and experiment with that content with the consumer at the other end.
Okay.
What companies had done wrong for so many years is they would make assumptions about
Hmm.
what that consumer would want to see. And Optimizely gave them a platform to trial things out, have an experimentation layer to determine what is the best content for this user.
Hmm.
And bringing together the content and the experimentation layer is a really unique offering in the market, and
Yeah.
the entire team is phenomenal there.
Oh, I love that. Congratulations on it. I mean, we
Thank
like
you.
to talk about trends on the show and looking at some of Optimizely's insights. I think they're helping to give us a real heads up on kind of the next big trends. They're talking about embracing customers in a context that evolves, about responsive experimentation, personalization. And there's
Absolutely.
some like really exciting things to consider, and they could have the power to really transform our digitization strategies. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And they do that already for over 9,000 brands around the world,
Wow.
helping them really shape what is that experience like for their consumer, that personalized experience for
Yeah.
every single person that comes into that front door,
Yeah.
tailored just for that individual. And I think that's what I just love so much about that is that the consumer experience is now a digital experience,
Hmm.
and make shaping that and being able to create something special for that individual person is something very special and
I
a
mean,
great
that's
opportunity that Optimizely has here.
yeah, and that's what consumers are looking for. But talk to me about the board position. So, a
Sure.
lot of, women in the industry or even men in the industry want to get involved on boards. They want to get involved with, different startups. And so, can you talk to us a little bit about how that came to be for you? I know you can't divulge like maybe too much, but just talk to us about
Mhm.
how that came to be. Did you put yourself out there? Did they come to you? And what does that kind of look like? Like, do you put expectations out there as to what your bandwidth might be, or tell us a little bit about
You hit the nail on the head. The
that?
very first thing I did was really saying to myself, okay, am I at a place where I will have enough bandwidth to take
Yep.
this on?
Hmm.
And when you're working with a company like Coupa, where the company is growing 40% year on year, IPO, scaling, all of these aspects, you really don't have a spare minute.
Right.
So I set aside by design any notion of pursuing a board seat until about maybe a year ago or so, where I said to myself, okay, now I'm in a place where I have enough capacity to be able to take on a position like this, to be able to help an organization at a different stage and share my insights. And so what I started to do is I started to just make sure my immediate network was aware, kind of all the
Okay.
people that I had worked with in the past, mentoring them, or they were mentoring me, and those types of conversations, or leaders in other spaces, just making sure I was putting myself out there and making sure people were aware. One of the conversations I had been having at that time was with the CEO of Optimizely, Alex Atzberger. Alex had reached out to me. He was looking for a new independent board member, a first seat independent board member for Optimizely.
Okay.
And we had worked together at competing companies for many
Okay.
years, but we still had a really great relationship based on respect. And so we pursued the conversations, and it seemed to be a good fit. And here I am.
Awesome. No, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that journey. And just one more question around that. What kind of capacity or bandwidth do you really need to have for a board seat?
Depends on how much you want to put out there, right?
Okay.
So some boards I've seen from friends that are in different boards will have very limited, on a quarterly basis, maybe reviewing materials and then sitting through. My model is a little bit more hands-on than that. And with
Okay.
Optimizely, we meet more regularly. The CEO and myself or other people will meet on specific topics. I might review materials, different playbooks or frameworks, and share perspectives. Here's what we had done previously. Here's what I've seen has worked at other companies or with other colleagues of mine. I'm a connector, so I'm happy to connect people as well. So
Awesome.
it varies. It really does vary. Obviously, quarterly, there's quarterly materials that you're reviewing, but I
Hmm.
try to be more hands on.
Yeah, I know for me, mine is more quarterly because I'm on the board of a non for profit. And then
Mm-hmm.
I also need to be on a subcommittee as well. So there's some
Mm-hmm.
monthly tasks that need to be done. There's also quarterly meetings with very lengthy board documents.
Yes, yes.
So, yeah, it really depends on, I think, what board you're on and what that looks like. And so, in your LinkedIn bio, you mentioned that you're an inventor and you've been awarded 12 software patents. And I just wanted to touch on that. I mean, you
Yeah.
don't often see a corporate leader who's also actually innovating and inventing themselves. So, is it important to you to continue to stimulate your creative side and have that balance? And what do the patents mean to you?
Sure. I think it is important to me as a person. I am very much a person that thrives based on innovation and thinking about problem statements and trying to think about how to improve these problem statements, whatever they may be. So the patents themselves, from my history, really mean to me that I was able to take something, look at it differently, and then do something special with it.
Awesome.
As I've gone into more and more leadership, my role is more supporting my team and
Hmm.
everyone around me. And I know a lot of people that will listen from a Coupa perspective, they've heard me say over and over, is that something that you feel is patentable?
Hmm.
Think about it from a perspective of, can you go and take that idea and work with our patent team and go patent it for yourself? Anything I can do to help my team members or anyone at Coupa kind of lift if I could lift them up into an experience where they're also getting their own patents and getting their work protected, I think is really important to me. What I have seen it, through the years, through other companies is, friends that have worked on different projects and then all of a sudden, another company hears about it or something and they build it faster. So I
Mhm.
just want to make sure that if I know of someone that is doing something creative and innovative, that they have the support that they need to be able to go and patent it themselves as well. And Coupa
Amazing.
has been really supportive of that.
Have they?
Yeah, very, very much so. With an entire team that supports anyone at the company that has an idea that would like to go into a patent process.
Mhm.
But we have a process for doing that. We review, the ideas, and we support the team and give them also input into what would make their patent case stronger. Um, some of my
Amazing.
colleagues are leading those efforts now and just doing phenomenal on supporting the team through that.
That's amazing. I wish I had that. So I have one patent.
Yeah.
It's not a software patent. It's actually a product patent, and I wish I had that kind of support when I was looking to patent. It took me 3 years to do it. I finally got it just a couple of months ago. Super, super proud of it
Congratulations.
because
Yes.
yeah, and congratulations to you on 12. I mean, I've been through it once, but 12 is a whole nother level.
It's very, very, very difficult, as you know. Congratulations, by the way. I'm
Thank
super,
you.
so proud of you. I mean, that's incredible. And my sisters know as well on the product side, I'm constantly texting them and saying, hey, what about this idea? Would you buy
Yeah.
this? So maybe one day I'll add a product one to my profile.
Awesome. I can't wait. I can't wait. So, I want to sort of shift gears into what your experiences have been like in the industry as a woman, right? So, you studied at the within IoT, you worked in big name tech brands. Was it difficult to be seen and heard in those environments? Did you have to find your voice early on? How did you find your voice? A lot of questions there, but really just around your experience and sharing that with us.
Sure. Well, I've been very lucky, I would say. The people that I've worked with through the years, whether it was at Accenture or IBM or smaller organizations, I've been able to share my thoughts and be supportive in a way that I would like to emulate
Okay.
and be able to do this for other women because I know working with my friends and colleagues, they have not had those experiences by and large. So, my learnings through the process is a recognition that what I went through is not very typical. And I'm not sure why that is. I don't know if it was luck or what it might be, but I was supported throughout my career of just having really good managers of people, and even again managers that I still get along with and that I still network with 20 years later, where
Right.
it's just people in my life that we built relationships and we continue to just have those relationships of support. But again, the learning, what's really critical is the learning that not everyone has had that. And so, one of the things I try to do is make sure that people have a voice.
Mhm.
One thing I read is there was an article I read, it was in the Obama administration, and some of the women in the administration had mentioned that they would be in a meeting and someone would say, a woman would say something, and then 2 minutes later a man would say it, and people would acknowledge the man. So the women in the room got together and they basically created a model of echoing, where
Mhm.
if one woman would say it, another woman would step up and say, oh, Sarah, that was a great idea,
Yeah.
right? Giving that echo and recognition, and it was really effective. So I've tried to do some things like that in my own life, where if I see a woman having an idea or another ethnicity that needs support, I'll echo it in that meeting and I'll
Awesome.
encourage that type of echoing. And in addition, sometimes people may not be comfortable in those types of settings. So making sure you're reaching out to people afterwards or slacking them and saying, hey, I didn't hear you speak. I know you might not be comfortable in those settings. Anything you want to talk about? So just recognizing that sometimes people's voices may not be heard in that meeting, but it's important as a leader to listen.
Ugh, I just got goosebumps because I don't know if you know this, but I have the Blended podcast as well. And I bring 5 different people from different walks of life to talk about diversity and inclusion. And that's exactly what I do. I create a safe space for everybody's voices to be heard, no matter what that looks like, no matter what the
Yeah.
perspective. And by the end of the conversation, they're like, "Thank you so much because I feel heard today." And I'm sure that, the people around you, from you leading from that perspective, are thinking the exact same thing. And I really like the fact that you gave us an example, because I think we can only lead by example. And if we can share examples like that echo example, that is one very, very, very small thing that each one of us can bring to a boardroom table and start slowly elevating those voices. And so I think that just gave me goosebumps.
I'm glad, and
Um,
I'm really happy to hear you do the blended series. I think it is really important, and again, just a recognition that everyone's idea of being heard might be different, and some people just
yeah,
are simply not comfortable with sharing a voice publicly, and
yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's so true. I mean, that's why Blended is audio only, and not
Mhm.
video, because video
Yeah,
deters a lot of things or people change. And I didn't want
yeah.
that. I just wanted authenticity across the board. So thank you so much for bringing that up and pointing that out. Did you have a mentor? Was there somebody that inspired you or opened a door for you along the way? What did that look like?
I think I've had mentors throughout my career, absolutely. At Coupa, I would say the people that have really mentored me through the years are our CEO, Rob Bernstein, and Raja Hamoud, our EVP of product. Both of these people, I always feel like every meeting I go to is like a master's class in that meeting. There's something to
Nice.
be learned. And I think what's really important from mentorship is this notion of just watching, observing, listening, and constantly saying every moment is an opportunity to learn something if you
Yeah.
sit there and listen.
Absolutely. And so, what does the future hold for Donna? What does that look like? I mean, we talked about having a product patent, so there's one thing. But what else is in store for us to watch and see your journey?
Sure. I think there's so much still to be done in the space at Coupa of business spend management. It's really, for me, creating a new frontier, a new industry of software, a new class of software that brings together the supply chain teams, the procurement teams, the sourcing teams, as well as the finance teams and the risk teams and the diversity teams and the sustainability teams.
Yep.
So many of these groups are just completely siloed today, and they're working on very strategic initiatives, but they're not speaking together and they're not working together. And the technology itself is not supporting their shared needs and shared goals. And we have a real opportunity to bring these teams together in a similar way of how Salesforce brought together sales and marketing and customer experiences all in one product line. And we're
Yeah.
trying to do that equivalent in business spend management. So there's so much more to come. When I look at our rate of feature development, we develop about 350 features on an annual basis.
Wow.
So in 5 years, this thing is going to be radically different.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, and I always say collaboration is the future of business. And so you are, music to my ears, because I've always said that each one of those departments, and we can't be siloed anymore. We all need to come together for that future success. And so, what would you say to leaders or women or girls that would follow in your footsteps? What advice would you give them?
Find someone that you can connect with that'll support you on your journey. You can't do it alone. Like you just said, you really need some you need a village to support you, but it starts with one. Find that one person in that meeting, or someone that you admire. Maybe you don't even know them, but find your strength to be brave, to be able to send an email or send a LinkedIn message or Twitter. Just connect with someone that could help you on your journey. But it's incredibly important to find these people. And when you find the people, continue to work with them and stay connected with them. Um, Life is really a marathon, right? it's not a sprint. So the more you can build the relationships with people and just continue to find additional people in your life, but then also importantly, when you reach a appropriate time, do the same for other people. Be there
Mhm.
for other people in the same way they've been there for you. I think is a really important. That'd be my advice to whether you're starting out or if you're a leader.
Amazing, amazing. Pay it forward and even like comment on their LinkedIn post. I mean, it doesn't even have to be necessarily a LinkedIn message. Just get on their radar and start small until you feel comfortable. Well, you have certainly inspired me. I just love hearing the stories of smart, innovative women absolutely shining in a male dominated world. Not only have you been a really impressive leader and collaborator, inspiring others to success, you're also an innovator and inventor in your own right. And that is the ultimate combination of attributes right there. I just can't wait to see what you develop next. Thank you so much, Donna, and the team around you for making this episode happen and for joining me on our Woman in Supply Chain series.
Thank you so much, Sarah. It has been awesome. I'm going to go look up your patent right now and check it out.